Hello, Gemini Rising. This is your 2022 annual astrological outlook. And what a varied and yet different year 2022 will have in store for you. So, to begin with, Gemini Rising, we've got Mercury, the planet of communication, retrograde from January 14th to February 3rd, 2022, and respectively that will go from Aquarius in your ninth house to Capricorn in your eighth house. Now, what is Aquarius representative of? It is representative of communication, technology, friendliness, humanitarianism, strange, the weird, and Aquarians are very social. So this could be representative of social media. So with retrograde Mercury, the planet of communication, in your ninth house of anything foreign, languages, education of all types, and long distance travel and some contracts, you can guarantee around about this time frame and pre-shadow as well as post-shadow Mercury retrograde, there are going to be some mix-ups with regards to any kind of contracts that you may want to sign. This is not the time, especially with Mercury retrograde in your ninth house, to sign or negotiate for anything. And there could be some mix-ups with anything that deals with travel. Now, for the most part, the ninth house deals with long distance travel. However, on occasion, this can be travel of any sort, including that which is local travel. And it's not a time to get involved with any disputes that may deal with negotiations as well. If you are looking to go to a long distance place, well, hold that off for another time because there will be frustrations and delays. Education or educational pursuits should also be delayed at some other time. Now, once we have Mercury going back into your eighth house in Capricorn, Capricorn is representative of all things very business, serious. Capricorn is about structure, karma. Now, with Capricorn in your eighth house of depth, the occult and deep emotional connections, intimacy, sometimes dealing with trusts and wills. There could be an issue with getting in touch with your deep emotional self. There could also be conflicts with others around you, emotional conflicts, because the eighth house deals with Scorpio, and Scorpio is very emotional. So don't get in petty emotional disputes, tit for tat, right and wrong. Intimacy could be an issue right now at this time. But with Capricorn, Capricorn is about structure and discipline. So you may feel that your emotions are a little bit worked up and there could be some drama with regards to your communications now. If you are signing or dealing with any wills or trusts, you might want to hold off until Mercury turns direct. Eighth house also deals to some degree with authorities, so be careful with authorities and what you say connected with them. Now, we have Mars in Sagittarius in January of 2022. Mars loves to be in Sagittarius, Gemini rising, because it is a fire sign, and Mars is the ruler of Aries, which is also fire sign. Now, with Mars in Sagittarius in January of 2022, you're going to feel very outgoing with anyone. Mostly, however, not so much those that are close associates unless you are going to be romantically involved or looking for a commitment, but it's about dealing with the public. And oh boy, Mars is very attractive in Sagittarius. You will then feel like negotiating, but don't negotiate, Gemini rising, around the retrograde phase in January. That can then wait till February. But either way, you may feel very enthusiastic and zesty about making business deals and commitments of all types. This is very positive for you indeed in January, Gemini rising. Next, we've got Mars in Capricorn. Now, Mars will be conjoining or meeting up with Pluto in February. Now, Mars is the planet of action, Gemini rising. So, with Mars there in serious, business-oriented Capricorn in your 8th house, you're going to then feel like you can really, Mars, express yourself at the best, because Mars now is in the emotional 8th house. So you may have some really deep emotional positive encounters with people during the time of February, and especially while Mars is connected with the very deep ruler of Pluto in Capricorn. So, because Capricorn deals very much with business, don't be surprised if you will be dealing with trusts or wills, maybe some of those individuals connected with authority or power to some degree. But you can guarantee in February, Gemini rising, it will be very meaningful and possibly once in a lifetime, whatever your emotional connections are in February, with Mars meeting up with intense Pluto. Now, Uranus goes direct in Taurus on February 18th. Now, that is in your natal 12th house, and the 12th house deals with secrets. And Gemini rising, you've probably been dealing with this whole time since Uranus is in your 12th house, secrets, and somewhat like the 8th house, emotional issues, and somewhat like the 8th house as well, because it is a water sign house, Gemini rising. There have been some unexpected conflicts in your life with Uranus in your 12th house. With Uranus in your 12th house retrograde, you may feel vastly misunderstood and frustrated. You may have some unusual Uranus medical issues that have come up, and perhaps this is a time where you have thought about getting some kind of counselors or unraveling your emotional self to those closest to you. But it's a great time to do some soul searching, and there is a great or greater need for privacy right now at this time, but as well as looking for aid and certain emotional connections, you may also be the one to reach out to others and give a certain amount of help and insight. Great time for looking into medical and metaphysical matters as well. You will get a lot of rewarding, positive feeling and sympathy from all of these ventures. Now, we've got Venus on January 29th going into Capricorn. Now we are going back into that Capricorn connection here with the 8th house. Venus is the planet of love. So in the month of February, Venus will also be in Capricorn. However, somewhat like Mars, Venus is about attractiveness, it is about beauty, but like Mars, it is about taking action in the area of which, in this case, Venus represents. Venus is about love. Venus is also very creative. Now, with Venus in your 8th house, you may have creative ideas regarding that which is expressing yourself creatively to those that you love, perhaps one you are intimate with. And because it deals with emotional depth, Venus in Capricorn in your 8th house, you will feel like you can express yourself very well and your needs and your desires to everyone closest to you. Also, the 8th house represents big money. So, hey, right now, Gemini rising, it might be a good time to play the lotto, do a little gambling, take a risk. Although the 8th house isn't the 5th house of gambling, the 8th house can also pay out pretty well. And with Venus there, and then its meet up with Pluto, well, hey, you might do pretty well in the emotional and creative areas of your life. Now, looking ahead here, we have Jupiter, the planet of luck and the planet of expansion in your 10th house, Gemini rising. And Jupiter used to be the old ruler of Pisces. So Jupiter really likes being in Pisces, although its current ruler is Sagittarius. And with Jupiter, the planet of expansion and generosity, the grandiose, in your 10th house, there will be an expansion, Gemini rising, in your career for sure. Now, there is a bit of a clash, Gemini rising, with your mutable sign of Gemini and the mutable sign of Pisces. But either way, Jupiter is great in your 10th house because you will find, especially during 2002, that there is a great deal of activity in your career zone. Wow. All kinds of opportunities are going to come to you, Gemini. Now, you're just not going to be sure about what route to pick, what career choice, because you will have so many choices. But with Jupiter there in Pisces, Gemini, that's highly creative and it is highly psychic and inspirational. If you've thought about getting involved with medicine or metaphysical, anything that deals with compassion and sensitivity, even with, yes, dealing with water, gems, these are all rulerships with Jupiter and Pisces, and you will be very beneficial to others as they seek you out this year with those interests. Now, we've got Mercury with Saturn in mid-February. Then Jupiter, the end of February to March 9th, then with Jupiter in Pisces. Wow, that's a mouthful. So let's see what's going here. We have Mercury with Saturn. So Saturn is in Aquarius. So Mercury will be with Saturn. So there may be some mix-ups with your communication, or you may feel, Gemini rising, stagnated, that you are not really getting places with your communication or some of your business aims at that time. Maybe your education is on hold. But then we've got Jupiter the end of February to March 9th with Pisces. But once Mercury goes with Pisces in your career zone, Gemini rising, you're going to be, wow, connecting and communicating with everybody regarding your career. And remember, Jupiter is not only the planet of expansion, but in this case, Jupiter is in a water sign. All and anything connected with compassion, sensitivity, possibly even creativity, where you can express yourself at the highest, is going to benefit you now. And with Mercury, the planet of communication, hooking up with Jupiter in Pisces, wow, everybody is seeking you up, and there is going to be opportunity abounding. Now, late February to early March, Venus will be with Pluto in Capricorn. So we discussed that earlier. Venus with Pluto is about depth and soul searching, and Venus there adds that creative bend with Jupiter in Pisces. And because it's sextile to Jupiter in Pisces, this is going to be a highly creative and inspirational time for you in March. And of course, then we've got Venus then going into Aquarius. That's the weird, the unusual, and continues that creative theme. However, this time you may be thought of as a genius or very original, especially if your midheaven or your MC is at the top of your chart. Venus there gives you somewhat of a foreign flair. You may like to hang out with different people on social media from all types of places all around the world. You may want to try new foods or new styles, and this time will favor you, Gemini rising, to go back to school or continue some type of education. And that is in March. And then, of course, then Mars will go into Aquarius. That just turns up the genius ninth house volume with all educational and contractional negotiations. Then we have Mars, Jupiter, Neptune conjunct Pisces mid-May. Okay, so that's again Mars, Jupiter, and Neptune in mid-May in Pisces. That's a lot of Pisces energy for you this year, Gemini rising. Now, with Jupiter and Neptune conjunct in your 10th house, that's a very rare conjunction, Gemini rising. Doesn't always occur very frequently. Now, with Mars there, with the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction in your 10th house, oh my, Gemini, this is the career year for you. This is a time, Gemini, if you've wanted to expand or maybe even change your career, this is going to be the year for you. And with Neptune there, if you have ever thought of anything connected with medical, the psychical, even anything where you are of help to others, possibly in the counseling fields, this is going to be a year for you. But Jupiter in the 10th house also allows you to travel. So this year, Gemini Rising, you may very well get opportunities or an opportunity to travel with your career and broadcast all those Neptune, Jupiter conjunction, and now with Mars, the planet of action in your 10th house, ideas. People are going to sit up and listen to you this year, Gemini Rising, with all your compassion and your sensitivity. And it looks like May is going to be the time for you. Now, we've got Jupiter, which goes into the sign of Aries in your 11th house. Welcome, Jupiter in Aries. And Jupiter loves to be in zesty Aries because Jupiter rules Sagittarius, although it used to rule Pisces. But while Jupiter is ruling Sagittarius and now Jupiter is in Aries, which is also a fire sign ruler, we've got that coming along here in May on the 10th. And then Mars will be in its own of zesty Aries with Jupiter in June. So in the month of May and June, Gemini Rising, what a time for social. You are going to be well sought after. You may be the leader of your friends and your groups and activities. You will realize some of those creative hopes and possibly money dreams at this time. This is a great time to start a creative business with audacious, enthusiastic Aries Jupiter in your 11th house. So, why are people seeking you out at this time, Gemini, come June? Because you are so filled with brilliant Jupiter and Aries ideas and so much fun socially to be around. Now, we've got May 10th to June 3rd, we've got our second Mercury retrograde phase, and that's going to be in Gemini to Taurus. Now, from May 10th to June 3rd, Mercury retrograde in Gemini is always going to affect you in particular. Number one, because it is your rising sign. It's what you communicate to the world. It's your approach and your personal style. So, with Mercury in its own sign of Gemini and now retrograde, you may sense right now with this second Mercury phase that people may not get you. You may feel like you're saying the wrong thing, or what you say or how you say it just doesn't seem to catch on. So be cautious right now. And of course, any retrograde time, it's not a time for contractual negotiation. So Gemini, please put this off at this time between May 10th to June 3rd. However, you will still have the gift of gab. Just be careful, Gemini Rising, with all your gabby talent that you just don't say the wrong thing or sign the wrong thing right now. Now, Mercury will then flip back into Taurus in your 12th house. Now, with Mercury retrograde in Taurus in your 12th house, well, first of all, Taurus is a fixed sign. So with Mercury flipping back into the fixed sign and with Uranus in your 12th house, you may feel you are getting into some needless disputes because the 12th house is an emotional water house. You may feel like there are needless conflicts, or you may feel misunderstood. There could also be some kind of medical procedures that you may need to reschedule at this time, because the 12th house is also of medicine, since it is ruled by Pisces and Neptune. But it's a great time to do some soul searching, since this is truly what the 12th house is about. But thank goodness, Gemini rising, this is a very temporary time frame. Now, we then have June 4th, we've got Saturn retrograde in Aquarius, so there could be some mix-ups or delays with the educational travel theme. Be careful of what you're saying, Gemini rising, as well. Put off any long distance travel for some other time, because there could be frustrations there. Then June 28th, we've got Neptune retrograde in Pisces. Frustrations connected with your reputation or some of those brilliant creative ideas of yours will have to be placed on the back burner for now. But thank goodness, Gemini, the retrograde phases are rather brief. Then we've got Jupiter in Aries retrograde from July 28th to November 23rd. So between July and November, that's roughly 4 months, Jupiter in Aries will be retrograde in your friend zone. So be careful you don't get into petty disagreements with some of your friends, or if you're connected with any groups or social media, that social theme again, make sure you make yourself clear and you'll be just fine. Jupiter is nonetheless an enthusiastic Aries, so although you may still be attractive to groups and friends and try to get some of your creative or business ideas off the ground, you may feel that there are a lot of delays. But hey, this only goes until November 23rd. Now, late May to mid-June, we've got Venus with Taurus. Oh, that's very sweet, Gemini, because we've got Venus in Taurus, and Taurus is about money. It's about creature comforts, and Venus sometimes can go overboard regarding such things. So it's not a time for you, Gemini, with Venus, and Venus sometimes likes to eat. It's not a time to ruin that diet that you've been on. So if you get a little bit emotional right now with Venus in attractive Taurus, make sure you cut back on any of the sweet foods or anything that will make you feel a little bit too comfortable at this time, because Venus loves to be in Taurus, and in your emotional 12th house, the tendency to overdo will be very tempting. But it's a great time to look into those long needed medical procedures or get some kind of counseling and avoid any emotional issues or drama, especially with Venus in your 12th house. But nonetheless, it's a very comfortable place for you, Gemini rising. Now we've got Mars in Taurus with Uranus. Now, first that was Venus with Uranus and in your 12th, and you will come across that which is unusual. You may have some genius ideas right now for that creative venture that you're working on for 2022. But with Mars there, Mars, keep in mind, Gemini rising, is the planet of action. And with Mars in your 12th house with Uranus, that may bring about some kind of emotional upsetments around you. So if you can keep any kind of drama at bay during the month of August over this summer of 2022, Gemini, that will benefit you, because Uranus and Mars can somewhat clash, and with your 12th house and in a fixed sign, you may want to get out of the clenches with someone that you feel like there are some deep held emotional conflicts. If you can avoid those conflicts that may come up suddenly now, that will benefit you as well. Now, we've got Mercury then retrograde from September 9th to October 2nd. September 9th to October 2nd, and that will go from your 5th house of the creative as well, children's interests, anything to do with gambling, short-term love affairs, and romance. That will then flip back into your 4th house of family, investments, real estate, and your physical house. So with Mercury retrograde September 9th to October 2nd, first it will be in Libra. So what is Libra representative of Gemini? Libra is representative of balance. It is representative of harmony. It is representative of peace, and Libra likes to connect with social groups and anything that is beneficial of balance and negotiations. So with retrograde Libra Mercury in your 5th house, there may be some imbalances connected with children, pregnancies. Don't go overboard right now, Gemini rising, with gambling. And that doesn't mean necessarily like playing the lotto gambling. This can also mean like gambling, well, of any kind, but gambling with business pursuits. Right now is a time you might want to think some of those contracts or some of those creative outlets that you have right now and put them off for another day. Could be issues with kids, grandkids, and so on. But as always, thank goodness, Mercury retrograde is rather temporary. Then we've got Mercury retrograde flipping back into your 4th house. And of course, Mercury is at its best in Virgo. But with Mercury retrograde in your 4th house, Gemini rising, this may be a time of conflicts with family. Now, on certain occasions, Mercury retrograde in Virgo is connected with real estate, and it's definitely connected with your house, your personal abode. So you may either be in a contract connected with real estate, maybe you're buying or selling property, but this also is connected with your house, as in your personal renovations or repairs. So you may feel like you may have to repair or renovate areas in your house that need attention. But again, Gemini rising, Mercury is rather brief once retrograde. Now, we then have the Sun in Libra. Then we have Mars in Gemini. And then we take it to the top with Saturn in Aquarius, a beautiful and a blessed grand air trine. Wow, that is amazing. And that will be in October. Gemini rising. So, what does this grand air trine of Gemini, Aquarius, and Libra mean? Well, we've got Mars in Gemini. So that's going to be over your first house, Gemini rising. You might think about making a haircut or a new style for yourself right now, putting your best foot forward. You're going to feel very energetic and busy at this time. Then you add, especially if Aquarius is on your midheaven, Saturn in Aquarius, and Saturn is about responsibility in your ninth house. And again, if you've got the midheaven in Aquarius, you're going to be a busy bee with your career and business. Sign those contracts the end of the month. Okay, not during the retrograde phase, however. Okay, and then finally, we've got the Sun in Libra, a complete air grand trine. And with the fifth house, oh my goodness, Gemini rising, this is extremely creative. Around about October of 2022, you may find opportunities and all kinds of creative ventures lined up for you. You are going to be exceptionally busy with your career, and because of a probable, depending on your personal birth chart, trine or grand trine with Saturn, you are going to be possibly traveling. Certainly you're going to be very popular, and you are just not going to be knowing whether you're coming or going in October. But what a wonderful time for creative and business ventures, and social time too, because this is an air time, an air trine, which loves to deal with many different people. So what a good time. That's a highlight for you, Gemini, in 2022. Then we've got Mars retrograde in October, starting the 30th in Gemini. Now it's going to be retrograde in your first house, Gemini. So we just came from a blessed grand trine, and then there still is the grand trine, however, with Mars retrograde. So you may feel, hey, everything was going great, and now you're walking through quicksand. Now you feel like, well, I thought everybody got my ideas. So it's a temporary frustration, Gemini rising. Nonetheless, Mars is still connected with the trine in air, and you're still going to be busy, even if a little bit frustrated in October and into November. Now, we've got Saturn and Neptune, which finally go direct in October. So when Saturn and Neptune were going retrograde earlier in 2022, you may feel like there is a little bit of some mix-ups with what you were really aiming for with your career goals. But now in October, you're going to feel like, okay, everything is back on. Let's go sign those contracts. Let's talk about negotiations, and everything just seems to be coming to you, all the opportunities again, and you feel free to pick and choose without a problem. So that's a very good time for you right now during 2022, Gemini rising. Then we have the end of October. Jupiter then goes back into Pisces, from Aries to Pisces in your 10th house. And then it will flip back into Aries, which is wonderful, on December 20th. So, again, end of October, Jupiter goes back into Pisces. Okay, so with Jupiter now retrograde in Pisces on your 10th house, it's about delays again. But nonetheless, even then, Gemini Rising, you are still, with all this positive energy at the top of your chart this year, still going to feel like there is a lot of expansion in what you really want to do. You may feel like you have found your chosen profession and found your niche this year. So nonetheless, even with Jupiter retrograde, because Jupiter likes being in Pisces, well as Aries too, you're going to feel like for once that you have the energy to put into your career goals like never before. And you are going to feel so inspired. However, the good news is here on December 20th, Jupiter will then go back into Aries. So this is a time you're going to be really probably taking those Pisces career goals, and then you will then, with Jupiter in Aries, then be launching all those advertisements to social media and really going around talking to people about your ideas and really express your dazzling Gemini rising creativity to everyone who's definitely going to sit up and listen to you this year, December 20th, when Jupiter flips back into Aries. Now, Venus will be in Scorpio, intense Scorpio, and that will be in your 6th house, and that will be in November, and that will make a wonderful, beautiful, and blessed trine to Neptune at the top of your chart. So if there were 2 highlights for you, I see this year, in particular Gemini rising, it will be during the month of October and November, because we first have the air trine, grand trine, with Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra, but then we have a beautiful trine from your 6th house to your 10th house, and that's work in particular and the mundane, everyday ins and outs, with the Neptune at the top of your chart in the 10th house. And one thing about Scorpio and Pisces is they are both healers. So if you have felt any retrograde frustrations this year with the Pisces connection, with the retrograde Neptune, the retrograde Jupiter, right now during November, with this beautiful trine between Neptune and Venus, you're going to feel like finally you're going to be meeting with the right people. Every day is going to be a blessing for you. You're going to be going from pitching your ideas, your creativity, your career interest, business, to finally experiencing some prosperity and some publicity and some wonderful rewards during the month of November, during this Neptune-Venus trine with Pisces Scorpio. Now, we've got Venus, and that will be in Sagittarius, gregarious Sagittarius, and Mars in Gemini square Neptune in Pisces. Now, this is a mutable square here, T-square, between Pisces, Gemini, and Sagittarius. Now, this is at the close of the year 2022, but even though there is a mutable square, T-square, with Sagittarius, with Neptune and Gemini, just be careful about some of those contracts you may be signing right now, Gemini rising. Make sure that the negotiations you are involved with is not deceptive or confusing. This is a time where I would definitely not sign on the line because of that confusing Neptunian, mutable, Sagittarius, Pisces, Gemini, T-square, and especially since it will affect your first house. Maybe some of those compliments are really kind of shady. And so this is a time to really think about things, Gemini rising, especially dealing with possibly some shady yet very attractive Venus and Sagittarius business associates, or somewhere possibly you may be questioning your sweetheart or rethinking some of those love commitments at this time, especially if somehow they are dealing with your career aims. So to conclude, Gemini rising, this year it's going to be about your career aims. And with Jupiter's presence there, as with Neptune, you're going to feel exceptionally popular and have dozens of opportunities your way. Because of the connection with your 12th house, just be careful you don't get into any drama or petty disputes. And if you can focus on your creativity and with the first house connection, yourself putting your best foot forward this year, 2022 will be exceptionally rewarding, Gemini rising, for you. If you'd like to get in touch with me, my contact information is down below. I give one-on-one readings and written reports. Please subscribe to this channel and press the bell notification. Until next time, many, many blessings.